I felt it's one of those, like my problem generally with anime is that they don't talk like people, and I have a hard time with that. Designer Pablo, they actually talk like people talk, so I was like, okay, those are humans. I can understand that.
Yeah, yeah. So what I hear is because Samurai Champloo in English, that means a Tenno of culture that watches dubbed anime. Good man.
Pretty much.
Yep.
No, no backsies. Just leave it like that. Chai, that has to be the intro too.
So we're all gathered here today. I'm making this sound like a funeral now.
Or a marriage.
or a marriage. It's a marriage between developer and content creator. We are gathered here today in holy matrimony.
In holy matrimony.
What have I done?
I know.
I'm fired. What? But anyway, we're here to have I'm already. Jesus, I may stick with the marriage thing, but
divorce. Please, all right, go.
We're getting divorced. It's over.
Okay, here to have a discussion with one of the developers of Warframe, everybody's favorite, Pablo. And aside from Pablo, say hello, Pablo.
Hello, Pablo.
Wonderful. I didn't even have to prime that pump. That's great.
That joke was right there. I just had to go for it.
You're an amazing human. But
Can't blame you.
We also have a couple of content creators, with very famous content creators. We have Cephalon Jizo. If you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, friend.
Just go with my usual outro. Don't forget to like and subscribe and fuck off.
On someone else's channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
I didn't specify who to subscribe to. Just hit the first button you see.
It's true.
Damn.
Just click all the buttons under the video with the stuff. It's fine.
No, but I guess, yeah, hello, everybody. Big surprise. The two Cephalons are apparently in the same video. I know. I can hardly believe it myself. Thank you, Shai, for having me over. And it's really nice being over here with you guys. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Shai nailed it.
Yeah, she nailed it. She put an office meme. He's leaving. Whatever. Fine. Get the fuck out of here. And we have Triburos with us. I hope I didn't butcher your name because I've never actually tried saying it out loud.
Oh, no worries. I don't even know how to pronounce it. But, yeah, hi. I'm Trib. And from what I understand, I make videos every week, assuming you've forgotten how long a week is. But... yeah, thanks for having me over. I had nothing else to do today, so.
But we have Pablo here, and we can ask Pablo whatever we want. It's going to be a fairly civil discussion. Nobody's going to bring out the, end game pitchforks on you. So I think we'll be okay. So, Jizo, we'll start with you. Did you have anything you wanted to really... ask Pablo?
But I want to kind of start off with the interview with Scott. Pablo, had you seen that by any chance yourself?
It, yeah.
Okay. So I think that was a really, really good interview, just the whole thing, how it went and whatnot. So what I'm curious about is now that it's kind of like the first time something of that nature was released and it had a large number of different reactions, mostly positive from what I can tell in the community. What I'm curious about is for you as being the next one in line now and kind of like being within this group of people that can get fairly savage. I know. How does that make you feel? Do you feel a little nervous or just like hyped or just totally good vibes or what do you expect? Those sorts of things.
So honestly, I watched the interview. I thought it was great. I did not... this is probably what you guys do, but I never do it. I didn't check the YouTube comments or anything like that, so I have no idea. I have no idea if people enjoyed it or didn't enjoy it. Hopefully they did.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't come with much expectations. I would just I think it's cool that we generally stay pretty approachable. I think in terms of how how much access there is to the developers. Most games I play, I have absolutely no idea how I would even talk to anyone to develop the game, Yeah. So, in that sense, I think we're fairly open on.
Yeah, I'd say so too. I've had many discussions with fellow content creators and also the people from my community, being the Discord server and whatnot. And a lot of things that people love to praise about is how approachable you guys tend to be. Because compared to, from what I can tell, literally anyone else, you guys are like almost side by side. Like it's almost ridiculous, but in a positive way, you know. Obviously Warframe has like, you know, its ups and downs and whatnot and some issues here and there and whatever, but it just feels much more personal and much more like almost like a kind of a family, you know what I mean? Where we are kind of all in this together, and it never really turns to this, okay, you guys are like some corporate something, you don't care about the people individually, it's just the numbers game and whatnot, and all we care about is a freaking product that is perfect with 0 bugs and whatnot. That's like eliminated with you guys, which is great in my opinion. You know?
Yeah, I think you can see, like, you know, from the dev streams and all the streams and our general way of communicating. Like, most people can see that we're just people trying to make the best game we can. We're gonna miss the mark sometimes. We're gonna hit the mark sometimes, and you know, we'll do what we can to try and you know, land
shit
it.
happens. You know, that's
yeah. So I think there's definitely something to be said about when you know, when you do think about some games. Like for me, obviously as a developer, whenever I see like people super angry at another game developer for something, like for me it's very easy to sort of like have empathy for that developer, to think like, no, I know there's people behind trying to make a great game, and for one reason or another it didn't work out. But for people outside, it kind of looks like a faceless corporation, and you know, they're kind of just it becomes like a really sort of like a really tense sort of relationship. And with us, I think you can at least see like, okay, no, well, you know, maybe they nerfed this thing that I hated, but at least they explain why. I might not agree with why they did it, but at least I can see, you know, they're not trying to screw me to get me to now take on platinum for something. Right?
There are like a lot of people that love to jump to pitchforks, and it's a very interesting thing that I notice in the Warframe community. It's so easy to identify the people who have probably not played the game in months, but still find reasons to bitch about it. X item, name whatever you want, it doesn't matter, take your pick, has been nerfed because, and then there's some reasons. And a lot of times when I see nerf, I'm like, oh God, please don't be something I love. Please don't be something I love. Please leave Mag alone, you know? And then I read the reasons why, and I'm like, well, okay, I guess that makes sense. Well, let's see how it actually works out. You know, that's my attitude at least. But that update happens, and not even an hour later, you'll already find thousands of comments with people fetching their pitchforks and sharpening their torches.
We try to be very conscientious about player investment. So, you know, in a lot of games, once you release an expansion, everything you had kind of gets wiped and stuff like that. For us, it's very important that whenever we change something, you don't feel like whatever investment you put into it gets destroyed, right? So, while obviously, you know, we've done nerfs that I do think were justified, I do think that it is very understandable why people would be upset about the nerfs of something that they really enjoyed using. Yeah. So often whenever I see like reactions that maybe I think that are a little too large, the way I like sort of to think about it is, I find myself, I think of myself anyways, as someone that's very passionate about games. And I've never gone to the forum of a game to curse them out or whatever. So it makes me think like, no, it honestly makes me think like, oh, like that really means that someone really cares, that someone really has like their identity pretty tied to Warframe. If they're taking the time, even if it's taking the time to tell me that I'm horrible, then I do feel like, okay, well, this is a person that really cares about Warframe. And it's pretty cool that they care about something we make so much, you know? Even if it's not like, even if it's not to cheer us up, you know?
Yeah, players are definitely almost a little bit too emotionally involved in Warframe for several reasons that we don't have to necessarily pick apart. But in the grand scheme of things, I think that it's a good thing. Like, you know, for the reasons that I mentioned earlier with the, you know, like family kind of thing and just being close and, you know, having that sense of, hey, we can trust these guys. They're trying to do what will appease us, and in turn we will, keep food on their tables and whatnot. That's kind of like the game consumer and developer relationship. That's just how it goes.
Yeah.
Everybody's got to eat.
The whole angry thing is something that I always want to point out, and this is something that is just kind of something that I go by, is if someone is angry at anything, name anything in the world, it's usually because they care about something that's happening to whatever that is. Like, if you're stuck in traffic and you're angry, it's because you care about getting to work. Or if you're angry that you stubbed your toe or whatever, it's because it hurt you. Yeah, so you never get angry about something that you don't care about. Like, if you look at a mobile game, like some like rehashed asset reuse thing, you know what I'm talking about, like those really heavy bootleg mobile games. Yeah, you probably don't care about what happens to those. You probably have no interest in them whatsoever. It's like, it's just like quick butt grab, whatever. If you have interest in anything and you feel like, no, they did something wrong, and you get angry, it just means you care about it. And if you see people like yelling in the forums and things like that, even if maybe the suggestions don't line up with yours to make the game better, at the end of the day, they just want whatever is best for the game in their own way. Even if it doesn't line up with the developers and whatnot.
I think it's like all the different reactions people have. Because, like, yeah, if you care about something, of course you're going to get angry about it when you feel like it's going in the wrong direction. Like you said, if you're in traffic, you get angry, you vent a little bit, and you get over it. But sometimes the reactions people have are like, I'm sitting in traffic, I hate it, so you know what? I'm just going to pedal to the metal and take it out on everybody else around me, is kind of the reaction sometimes people have. They're like, oh my God, the devs have ruined the game. Oh my God, it's the content creator's fault that there's a content drought because they talk about it too much or something like that.
Yes.
Hitting a little close to home there, I'm sure. But it's how crazy the reactions sometimes get at, a nerf or a change or an update or something like that I think is like sometimes the overwhelming.
Yeah, I remember back in the day, like this update, I don't know, 8 or 7 or something like that. I remember we were remaking the Foundry, and we changed something. I don't even remember exactly what, because that's 6-7 years ago. We changed something, and everyone in the forums was just irate. Like everyone was saying, I'm never going to play this game ever again. This is horrible. You just ruined the game forever, blah, blah. And I do remember, like, we were like in a panic to like undo it, change it. Oh my God, that's horrible. And then, week and a half later, it was like, oh wait, that's the guy that said he was never going to play the game again. He's still here. And you kind of tune yourself to say like, so basically you got to think like, again, like the people that are going to be on the forums, that are going to be on Reddit, are very passionate, and they're also very interested in sort of this, like the day-to-day, and they're definitely going to sort of lean in a way. Like not anyone is going to be like, oh, this is cool, I'm going to go post in Reddit about how I like this. Like you'll go post in Reddit if you love it, but you'll also go post in Reddit if you're mildly annoyed by it. The threshold sort of changes there.
A lot of what happens is that the human mind is more asphyxiated with talking about negative things than positive things. Typically, if something is wrong in our life, we're more likely to vocalize that. And if something is going well, we're less likely to talk about it. It's the whole you don't know what you have until it's gone thing, right? But
among other things, of course, yeah.
Yeah. So it's something that you just kind of have to remember is how humans work. Like, you can do 10,000 good things. Like, here's a fun fact. Jovian Concord was a really, really, really solid update with a really good game mode and a really fun boss. The Warframe Revised update did a lot of good things with the damage changes and whatnot, and very minor hiccups. Gas had some issues, but overall it was really solid. And there was like a really good string of really good updates, and then an event drops that didn't happen to work as well as what you guys thought it would, and then suddenly everyone busts through the doors and starts yelling about like everything's going wrong and everything like that. And I get it. Like, sometimes updates don't work out well. Railjack had issues at launch and blah blah. And I always have to anchor myself back to reality. Even when I'm making videos where I'm like, God, you got to do something about this. I have to anchor myself back to reality and be like, okay, well, it's not like they have no incentive to kill their game, right? They're not doing this stuff to be like, haha, let's shoot a cannonball into our ship and sink it into the water. They have no reason to do that. But yeah, the whole thing with nerfs, I don't know what it is about the community, but they have a really, really, really strong bias against nerfs, even though I think they have a huge place in development. I always use a hypothetical like situation of you have 5 variables and one of them is way higher than the others. It's a lot more time effective to bring down that one value than to go through the entire rest of the game and bring everything up. With Brahma, for example, like a lot of people were like, holy crap, this weapon is really strong. Don't nerf it. Well, if we wanted to keep everything in line, you would have to take not only every other weapon in the game up and do one of those really long weapon revises. I think you guys did 2 of them so far, maybe only 1. Not only would you have to do that, you would also have to go through all of the enemies and make sure that they can withstand all that new power as well. So it makes a lot more sense to bring down that one tool, and it's just a lot more time effective and all that stuff. But for whatever reason, our community just it doesn't like the idea of nerfs. And I don't either.
Pablo, something that people have been asking a lot is this. Why do you guys decide to nerf one little thing instead of, take care, big brain moment, instead of just buff everything else? So could you maybe, from a developer's point of view, like very concisely explain to the numbskulls why that's a silly idea and just not possible?
So there's a couple sides to it. For the one side is why do we even nerf things? I guess that would be like the first basis question of like why even bother nerfing anything, right? For me, generally the core reasons to do it is if it's taking choice away. So, for example, if it's a weapon, sort of like the Catch Moon, where 50% of the players are using it, that means essentially if you're not using it, you're doing it wrong, which means essentially you kind of feel compelled to have to use it because of how good it is.
Yeah.
Right. So that would be one. For me, another reason to nerf things is if it can be automated. If it's something, for example, the Trinity hit yourself with a radiation proc and explode everything.
Yep.
That one basically could be automated. They made scripts of Trinity just jumping in place and doing that and clearing entire rooms over and over. Right. So anything that can be sort of automated, it sort of tells you that, first of all, it's not particularly interactive if it can be done with a script. And then, also obviously kind of it's pretty broken, right? Yeah. So to me, those are like the main 2 things that I kind of look at when nerfing. I personally don't believe that balance for balance sake is really necessary for a game like ours, because we all know that the game is not balanced. Like there's no one with the delusion that the game is balanced at the moment. It's more to say that we just need things that don't totally push other options off the table.
Right.
Because in general, my belief of the things that make Warframe sort of special and stand out is the variety and the power fantasy. And that variety comes from using many different Warframes in many different houses with many different weapons. Just kind of that variety is sort of what feels special about Warframe that other games are not doing, and they're more like specialized. And they do take more care about balance and stuff like that. The price of that is balance. So that is the first part, which is why do we even bother? Now, once we actually decide that something needs to be addressed, why instead of buffing everything else do we nerf that one thing? Well, for one part, is similar to basically what Triburos was saying, which is essentially if I grab the Catch Moon and say, okay, well, I want to raise everything to the level of the Catch Moon. Well, first of all, what does that mean? The Catch Moon is not only weak, it's not only super strong, or even the Brahma now, is not really super strong only because of the damage it does. It is because of the area it does it on. So what does it mean? What does it mean bringing the Rubico to the level of the Brahma? Does that mean that now the Rubico explodes in a 10-meter area to kill everything? It really is just mechanically, there's certain things that are what you would consider sort of ceilings in terms of how much I can do. So for example, a good example is Trinity, right? I cannot buff her 4 anymore. It does 100% healing, 100% shields, instant on a big area.
Yep.
There's really like that's the ceiling. There's no more. There's no extra healing. You know.
Yeah. Yeah,
Like,
she used to have map wide, like the
Yeah.
area didn't matter. It was like you could have been on the entire other end of Fortuna and you'd still get that heal. I mean, Fortuna didn't exist at that point, but you could have.
Isn't it affinity range now?
It's affinity range. Yeah.
It's meters, right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Which is pretty gigantic. I feel like if, for example, for the like how I was saying, like the Sivaris, if I wanted to get the Sivaris to where the Brahma is right now, I could give the Sivaris right now 100% crit chance, and he would still not get there because it doesn't have the area damage.
You got to be careful with what you
There's
say
just
with
no
Shy
way.
here, dude.
Don't. No.
I love the Sivaris myself, so I use it quite a bit. But what I mean is like just in terms of the mechanics, because of the area of effect of the Brahma, you just cannot catch up with the other weapons.
Yeah.
So and then if you try, basically what essentially you're doing is, let's say for example I do that and I give the Sivaris 100% crit chance. Well, then now I need to give it to a whole bunch of other weapons. I raise them all. Now you're killing enemies so fast that the game is not fun anymore. So now I have to bring the enemies up.
The enemies, yeah.
And then once I'm done with that, essentially what happened is I raised everything but left the Brahma down, so that now the Brahma feels weaker against those enemies. And that's it's essentially I just changed everything except the one thing that I needed to change to begin with. So it's and it has a lot of side effects as well if I were to try to do that. So essentially I ended up with the same result, but in a much harder way.
Thank you for trying to make that very clear. I very much hope that for maybe 2 days or so, us content creators will no longer hear that silly question anymore.
Oh, I mean, give it 2 minutes, dude.
Come on now. I think we can have 2 days.
One of the things I'm really eager to see, like put into the game, but rarely get any updates on, soccer mode. It's
my boy.
Soccer mode. Sorry. I heard soccer mode. I was like, soccer mode. Like, what? Like,
soccer. No, we already have Lenara. That's
you talking about Lenara?
No. It's funny because I'm not really much of a PvP person. But even I really like the sort of invasion style PvP. But I've also had people who have been who have been ready to hot glue my stack to the ceiling for pushing for its inclusion.
Wow.
Because they just don't like the idea of forced PvP. So one thing I wanted to run by is, A, do you guys still have a solid plan on how to implement it? And B, if you don't, do you still think that you're going to try to get into the game? I guess is what I'm trying to say. Because I really like the idea, but it's also hard to avoid pushing it on people who don't want people going into the game and like shooting them in the head with an arrow from 500 meters away on Plains of Eidolon. I'm not saying someone here has done that, but Pablo totally did that. But
yeah. So the answer is no. We do not have a solid plan.
Okay.
We've had many plans that we've been sort of trying to discuss, and once you start outlining, sort of the problems became more than the gains. So we've been at that sort of standstill of like, oh, what if we do it this way then? And then we started exploring that, and then we're like, okay, no, that won't work. And then we kind of just circle around. Do we want to do it? Of course, it does. I mean, it is pretty fun when you're doing it. It is also the problem with it is I think it's also a problem in general with how Conclave sort of works. Is that it's a little bit flat in terms of like what you're doing most of the time, right? Like a lot of the asymmetrical like PvP BE games, what they do is there's other interactions for you to do rather than let's see if I get a lucky shot from half a mile away, right? Which is essentially what I did when I was doing the stalker mode. So it is. It's one of those things that I think it maybe sounds cooler than it really is at the moment. And then we'd also have to figure out the meta mechanics of how do you gain access to it without ruining the game for other people, sort of deal.
That's a super fair answer, by the way.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Yeah. One thing that piqued my interest is when you guys were talking about hard mode or Star Chart Plus or whatever it was. Assuming I don't know how you guys are handling how rewards are going to work for hard mode. But I was just assuming that maybe it's like you get double rewards when doing Star Chart Plus or hard mode nodes. What I was initially thinking as like a brainstorm idea with stalker mode was maybe if you go into a hard mode node, as long as hard mode isn't delivering any rewards that you can't get in other nodes, and maybe it's just like double resources or whatever, maybe linking hard stalker mode into hard mode node. So if you go into a hard mode node, you opt in to the stalker mode pool for them to raid. Because if you're doing hard mode, you're probably really experienced in the game already, and you're dealing with level 90 enemies and whatnot. And again, if you feel free to blatantly disagree with me right now, like shut me down if you don't like the idea. But one thing that I was going to point out is that you're probably going to be doing missions with like level or master rank 25 or whatever, and everyone's going to be like min-maxed to hell. And one of the things that was very intriguing about stalker mode to me is it's something that I think should be really, really, really hard to succeed with. I think pretty much any run that you do with it should end in failure, except maybe 1 in 10 odds. Because I think that's interesting. Like that's something that I'd have a lot of fun streaming with ad infinitum, just because you're dealing with ever adapting players, some of which are gonna like handle you rather well, and they're gonna all gang up on you and just murder you down. And other times you're gonna have like really close calls and whatnot. But yeah, that's the issue. Like, how the hell do you implement a PvP thing that not everyone is wanting to play? Which is why I suggested the whole hard mode thing. Like, if hard mode isn't going to give anything exclusive to hard mode, that might be one way, because then you know that then people know what they're going to get into. Hey, you're going into hard mode. You're going to have to deal with people every now and then coming into your game, and you have 4 people on your side, min-maxed. So
Yeah,
I don't know.
but I feel
feel
like,
free to disagree with me.
I feel like there's still going to be people that they want to play hard mode and they want the challenging PvE experience, but they're still not sold on PvP. They don't.
Yeah.
They just don't want the PvP experience, no matter what. Even if it is on hard mode, even if you've got a pack of friends, like normal mode just isn't satisfying. Like, yo, I just want that hard mode. I want those level 50 plus, 100 plus enemies. But God damn it, I just do not want PvP.
That's fair enough. It's funny because the only reason that I got into the whole invasion style of game mode, like with Dark Souls, is because it forced it onto me. It was like hard love. Like
talk dirty to me, Daddy.
I grew out of my PvP mindset back in like 2013 with TF2. I had my fill of PvP, and then I get into Dark Souls, and it's like, I don't like this invasion system. I don't want to be beaten up by people that I don't want in my game. And then fast forward like a year later, and I just adore the hell out of it. But I'm one case. If you disagree, that's completely fair, because that's a really, really, really sketchy hill to go down, forcing PvP into a node that not everyone will want to go into. That was just my idea.
I'm sure tons of people are like that, though. I have no doubt that a lot of people like it for the Dark Souls aspect too. But
I think when you force game modes or force anything on players, and I remember I had a very lengthy, ranty video making that exact point, I think you destroy more than you actually gain. Like before Scarlet Spear, the only way you could really get the arcanes was doing Eidolon hunts. Now, me personally and a few other players out there absolutely hate Eidolons, not because it's badly designed or anything, it's just not my cup of tea. However, they drop something that I'd really like to have eventually one day. So it frustrates me as a player, but here you are with something that you'd like to have, something shiny, the reward, the arcane, be it interesting or not, doesn't matter, but you want it. But you're forced to play through something that you already don't like all that much.
Right.
Now, imagine that something also being really difficult, because PvP can get very difficult very quickly, depending on who you're up against, you know? I think that the idea is okay, and surely there's a market for people out there for that. But I think in the grand scheme of things, you'd probably lose more from that. Which brings me to another thing, since we're on the topic of, difficulty in general and whatnot, and this is obviously at you, Pablo. Is really curious. So Scott mentioned the hard and ultra hard mode, and the idea as it was at the moment when he mentioned it was Every planet, essentially, the base level of said planet plus 50 would be the hard mode, and the ultra hard mode would be plus 100 and whatnot. And I, of course, caught a couple people in my comment section in Discord, and I thought the same thing was this. If you go to the highest level planet on the star chart right now, Sedna, whatever, and start out with, or Mott, and you start out with level 45 or 50 enemies, and you add that 100 enemy levels for ultra hard mode, then you essentially start off with enemies at level 150. That's all fine and dandy, and yes, it is more difficult than 40 and 50, of course, but at the same time, the people who are capable of playing and are hungry for the difficult content, they're over here melting level 7,000, 8,000, 9,999 enemies, right? Okay, albeit with cheesing, but I guess the question I'm leading to is, instead of upping enemy levels and leaving everything else the same, what are your thoughts on somehow alternating their AI, and how difficult is that challenge in general? Because I think that's also very important for players to understand, because a lot will very easily just say, hey, just make the AI, just make them smarter. But
I mean, obviously, there's definitely parts of that. Like you said, you know, with Octavia, I could fight level 1 billion enemies, no problem, right? So there's definitely, I mean, but I'm honestly unsure. Like I really don't know if with level you can actually achieve challenge. You can make it harder, but will it actually be challenge? I'm pretty dubious, because there is a lot of ways for you to get around it. I mean, I definitely play with people that like to do the level 5,000 mod stuff. I really like the videos. I forget his name. Sen.
Relentless
Another word. Relentless Sen. So he loves to do those videos, you know, with whatever frame, just killing level 5,000s. So will level 150 mod be a challenge for any of those players? Absolutely not. There's no real there's no two ways about that. But so the problem for me is, like, even if you double that, even if you go to 250, that really, like, is not anything for the ones that really want to go into those crazy numbers, right? For them, it's just like, you're never going to get their win numbers. So then becomes, okay, well, how are you going to get to challenge? Well, I've literally written docs about, you know, kind of meditating on this stuff, because it is definitely something that that intrigues me a lot in terms of, like, how would you even possibly do it? And a lot of the cornerstone of it is kind of where that's actually one of the things I said earlier, which is where's the real, so the special sauce of Warframe? It's variety and that power fantasy. So, you know, if you look at a game with a ton of classes, sort of like a World of Warcraft, right? So there's not a lot of games that have 40 some classes like we do. Like that just doesn't exist. But you know, something pretty close is World of Warcraft, which honestly I don't know the numbers now, but they probably have like 10 classes, and those have subclasses. So let's say, you know, let's make it a 30. Just I mean, I know the classes are not that, the subclasses are not that different between each other, but yeah, let's just call it 30 for argument's sake. I was a player of World of Warcraft, and I do remember how tightly balanced that is. And it did require nerfs every couple of weeks. It did require unification passes where they grabbed and make, you know, I'm going to make up names because these are not the actual names, but, you know, if a priest had a strength of the fate buff, and then druid had a power of the bear buff, that used to be different, they turned it into, now both do exactly the same thing and essentially just have a different icon and a different name, and that's it. But they're the same thing, which would translate into Warframe to say, okay, well, Octavius Amp, Rhino's Roar, you know, Chroma's Vex Armor, all of them are now the same ability. They no longer stack. They now do the exact same effect. You know, those sorts of things are the really hard, like the really unification passes that you really need to do if you want to try and create a semblance of balance across the thing, so that every single class is able to actually take on the challenge.
Yeah.
If you don't do that, the other angle is what happens with Eidolons? 40
Mhm.
frames become 6,
Mhm.
400 weapons become 3, right? Like that, it sort of narrows the meta into a
Mhm.
point where if you're not bringing one of those 5-6 frames that are acceptable on Eidolons, you're doing
Yeah.
it wrong. If you're not
Yeah.
bringing one of those 3 weapons that work on Eidolons, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah,
And-
kills the variety.
Yeah, and,
Yeah.
and so and something very similar happens. It happens when you start like raising those levels to be really, really, really high. Does anyone remember the? I can't remember what year this was, but I know it had to do with Tenocon. It was an event where it was a survival with level 9,999 enemies.
Yep. Yep.
It was, and the entire strat was I believe a Vara sleep arrow finisher with the dagger that instant killed. That was the entire strat to get through that. It was Ivara to pickpocket reservoirs from, or life capsules from enemies, and then you'd kill them.
And Equinox and Shiv.
As you raise the levels, your options just get slimmer and slimmer because haha meta.
Well, you know,
we saw it even with Railjack and the cruise ships, for example. You know, there's a whole lot of frames that you just didn't feel comfortable using because you would get there and you get one-shotted. Like even when I'm playing, and I do like to use all sorts of things, so every now and then I would go into a cruise ship with a Banshee or something, and you have to really be on your toes if you work with a Banshee, because the slightest mistake and you insta died, right? So so basically it becomes a matter of if you really want to bring challenge, you gotta change a lot of the fundamentals of it.
You got to build the game around it.
And it really wasn't what we're like. It you know, the whole a meme of no end game and fashion frame is end game, all that. It does have a lot to do with the fact that challenging raids, something in the style of World of Warcraft,
Just
it really requires a balance that's like really nice edge. Like I do remember playing World of Warcraft and just getting a single item made a difference. You felt it in the difficulty of a raid boss as you were progressing, because it is very, very tightly balanced to work that way.
One thing that I wanted to go back to what Jizo was saying was he mentioned like specifically with AI and like adjusting that. I think I'm not a developer or anything, but I think that is almost impossible right now because I'm a really, really big fighting game player. I really like fighting games, like the ArcSys fighting games, Guilty Gear, things like that. And those games, when they're doing their AI, they need to make it as challenging as possible because those games are all about the challenge. And so I have never seen a game that has achieved an AI that is challenging without feeling cheap. If we're not talking about upping variables, like just, this enemy now does 9 quadrillion damage. If we're talking purely making a challenge via an AI, it's going to feel cheesy if you do that because, like I said, I play a lot of fighting games, and if I put the AI up to like maximum difficulty, their idea of challenge is this AI now literally reads your mind. If you try to go in for an attack, and just a basic fighting game terminology here, an AI will read the instant you press a button and will enter a dragon punch to hit you back. That's not challenge. That's the AI literally reacting to something that you literally could not react back to yourself. At that point, you have to cheese the AI, and it all becomes a loop again. If you're dealing with enemies and you're increasing enemy variables, people are going to cheese it by developing some kind of meta where frames can deal with that specific variable better. If you go to the AI route, what's going to happen is that people are going to pick frames that can cheese the AI.
I am a designer, and I would love to be able to say, oh, there is a way that we can, with the foundation we have, make something that is actually challenging, that you feel like, okay, I really have to organize, and I have to perform well while I'm playing it. And like, I would love to find that. And we've had some ideas through the years, and who knows, maybe one day we'll finally have something. But I think for certain, like that idea of the AI, I feel like there must have been some content creator that made a video, because all of a sudden I started hearing that suggestion a lot.
That was me. That was me.
I think Trib and I were definitely guilty of that one.
I think that may have been us. Like I said, I was one of my latest videos, I think it was my latest one, was entirely about difficulty in Warframe. And the only idea that I had was, hey, you know how the Grendel missions made it so that you had to not use your mods and you actually had to organize a team? That was fun. It wasn't very Warframe because you couldn't use your mods and stuff. But what if you started off with no mods and you slowly gained mods from your arsenal over time, and enemies level got higher and higher? So you loot it like a roguelite run, and you take mods as you find them off elite enemies or chests or whatever.
Sorry, that was your heist thing, right?
Yeah, so that's
heist,
me.
yeah.
Me and Jizo probably got a whole lot of conversation going off about that.
There's like two separate things there. One is can we make the AI smarter so that the game is more challenging? The reality is imagine a world where every single
One
enemy
man.
is
This
controlled
summer.
by a deep mind. Deep mind is that thing that beats people in StarCraft now. So
Yeah.
the smartest AI you can have. Imagine you put that on each one of our enemies so that they can fight you. At the same time, you're still going to be able to press 4 and just freeze them in place and just shoot them in the face.
Cheese them. Yeah, cheese.
Like there's absolutely no, the smartness of the AI really is not, it does not come into place as soon as you can CC them forever, or
Yeah.
you can do all sorts of things. So how do you counter that? Again, you have to nerf those things. Nerfing those things is something that would like the level of friction required with the community for us to really bring all of imagine nerfing every CC ability in the game so that the enemies don't get stuck. Like that would be just riots in the street, right? So
Oh, shit, yeah.
and
Touch
again,
Loki and I'll break your ankles. Sorry, go on.
going back to the things I think that make Warframe is that variety and that power fantasy. So that power fantasy really suffers if you just start nerfing all the things,
Of course.
Is it worth the price for getting challenged? Personally, I don't think so. I just don't really think so. So will we ever manage to get something to the levels of difficulty of a mythic World of Warcraft raid? Probably not. I would never say never, but kind of never. So that's kind of how I feel about that one in terms of the AI part. Now the roguelike, I do have some ideas. I would love to do a roguelike mode someday. I don't know if for challenge or more for I
Fun.
think it's fun.
Yeah,
I think
me too. I love
yeah.
it so much.
I think a lot of the things that happen sometimes, and this I think affects you guys in particular as content creators, is that as Warframe is more fun to play than to watch.
It is,
I think
definitely.
when you're playing, you kind of get in a groove and you really sort of enjoy it. But as an observer, the cool part about watching games that are PvP and stuff like that is they're hard. You cannot predict what's going to happen. Once in Warframe, if you sit down to do a 4-hour mod, you're going to do a 4-hour mod. Everyone knows what it looks like. No one's going to be surprised as you do it, right? So, if we manage to have other sort of, I would love to have some things that are less, more unpredictable, things where you can actually fail. Because that's the other thing.
Right.
If we look at the stats of failure stats on missions, they're super low. Almost no one fails. You essentially fail spy missions on sorties. That's about the only thing that people ever fail. So in that sense, I think that predictability is very fun as a player, and it's a sort of familiar thing that you enjoy doing, and it's a good time for you when you're doing it, but it's not that fun to watch.
Yeah.
And there's also obviously, as a player, I would love to have something that's I don't know exactly what's going to happen today. I don't like doing the unpredictable thing all the time, but every now and then, let's jump into this mode and let's see what madness happens, and
that's kind of what the whole idea with the whole roguelike thing was. You're never gonna know if you're gonna get a good weapon or a decent damage mod without being heavy caliber, and you're using a bow, and now you're firing 90 degrees off of where your crosshair is and stuff like that. And that's also the reason why I really, really hope that soccer mode makes it into the game, because it's still relatively PvE. It's not like Conclave where it's PvP. Some people may not want to play that. Maybe they want to play PvE and stuff like that. And then, if you go into a stream and you're being I'm going to play soccer mode today, you never know how that's going to go. Like you can get a headshot from 500 meters away with a bow, aka Pablo, and all the hype that went off in that stream chat when that happened, like the pop off that happened was immense. That's something that I think Warframe needs to get. It needs to have something that's nice, that's unpredictable to watch. And I think your idea of a roguelike mode or roguelite mode would be awesome if you guys ever get around to it. I heavily endorse that. Just saying that right now. I love that.
Just so Shai's voice doesn't get lost, she said, I guess you can do challenge on other levels, like requiring some high-level coordination timing, kind of like you do with some of the recent gimmick-based bosses, where just shooting them a lot doesn't do anything.
Right, so those are more mechanic-based, and definitely you can do, and also World of Warcraft does a lot of that too, You got to stand at the right place at the right time, and you got to know the faces, and you got to perform well while you're doing it, while at the same time you're doing your normal sort of DPS rotations and all that stuff, right? Yeah. So I could see things like that, but tightened up a little bit, could get you to a place where you're challenged, but you got to introduce things that people are not super fond of, like invulnerability faces, so that Chroma doesn't one-shot it, or things that insta-kill you, so you can all bring just 14 arrows and just roll your face on the keyboard. It kind of it kind of pushes you in those directions that I think some of the mechanics that players would have like an immediate negative reaction to say like, wait, how do you mean that insta kills me with my arrows with 15,000 armor or whatever, and just that sort of thing definitely has a friction there that is very hard to deal with. But I do think that's probably where we can find at some point challenge. It's definitely more on the mechanical stuff rather than numerical stuff.
So while Shai did say, well, maybe they just need to get good. I mean, so we've been talking about there's going to be friction because then, what do you mean I can't just bring, my Anaris that has 15,000 armor or whatever? Then they kind of get pushed in other directions, right? Because okay, I can't just bring Mega Tank Zord. I have to try something else. I have to go to a different weapon. I have to maybe go for something that's maybe a little more mobile because this insta-kill phase, man, there's like this wave that goes out and I just can't outrun it. So I don't know, not necessarily everybody get good, but it might make people go in different directions with builds, frame choice, weapon choice, and just quality of life mods that maybe before they wouldn't have done because I'm just going to roll my face across the keyboard with an arrows.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. And that's sort of the approach of make a lot of eidolons, where in the eidolons, the people have found a meta that they specialize on, and that's the one they use for that. So what if you make another type of boss or content or something that also has a very specialized meta, but it's different? So as long as the meta is not the same one in both, you're good to go because you're still getting variety. And then you can introduce sort of things like that, as even if the metas get really narrow, is not as bad because they're sort of spread.
There's multiple, there's multiple scenarios where there's multiple metas and stuff like that. Yeah. It's funny because when you're trying to introduce difficulty or challenge, the way I like to think of it is that you're feeding an algorithm into a supercomputer. And your algorithm is the challenge and the computer are the players. You can feed a very, very simple challenge to a player like 2 + 4, and then, you fit it into the machine and they spit out the answer. It's like, that was easy. Give me something else. You can make that algorithm as long as possible, and it takes them longer and longer to figure out. But eventually, they're going to figure out a meta, and that challenge isn't really going to be challenging anymore. And that's kind of what you have to deal with when you're dealing with a live service game. You have to keep pushing out different quote unquote questions, the different challenges. There's not one single thing that you can put into the game that's always going to be challenging.
What do players do to get to level 3,000? They start cheesing, right? They start relying on metas, and it's fairly easy. Frost Globe, spam it every 3 seconds. You already got your no more dying, right? That's out of the way. You won't die, right? Or you grab your whoever goes invisible and just do that. You're not dying anymore. A-okay, right? So we start to rely on these cheese methods. Okay. So what if the AI doesn't necessarily get a higher IQ, if you will, but just starts to counteract cheesing specifically, like, for example, camping? What if the AI would acknowledge that you're camping, you're spending too much time in one room, and they would maybe stop for a minute, retreat, gas the room, and if you don't escape it, you just die because it does heavy damage. Or what if as you go through endless levels and whatnot, what if, just like the Sancients spawn every so often on Lua, or just like the Stalker shows up, or G3, or whoever from time to time, what if during endurance runs, after certain intervals or whatever, more or less random, some random boss shows up, like, I don't know, Vayhek or Sargus Ruck shows up, drops down from the ceiling with a very quick but cool animation like Lich Kills or whatever. And you have to deal with him, adding that kind of a dynamic into the mix.
If you want to avoid like camping, for example, there's sort of natural, like a little more natural ways to do it that we already do, which is, for example, survival. You have to go to a different room to get the towers, for example. Or in Disruption, you got to go and get the keys, so that camping isn't as easy. Obviously, you can still do it in defense or something like that. But, in defense, of course, you're going to camp. It's obviously in normal missions, for example, the sapping drones are designed for sort of like that, don't stand in that same spot. I'm going to drop a mine on you. And if you don't move, that one's going to hurt, right? That is kind of the intent of those things.
And they truly do.
Yeah, that the reality of it is, with stretch and, overextended and all that, added to any of our many CC abilities, there's literally there's a big area where enemies just cannot get to you. Like if you just want them to die on their own out there, you can easily do it.
Yeah.
So it becomes a matter of there would be sort of interesting things, like, for example, okay, well, let's say in survival, if enemies haven't been able to get to you for a while, maybe they switch and now they start destroying oxygen towers, so now you have to go and defend them or something like that.
Just upping the level and whatever is fine and dandy, but that will never induce any sort of challenge for the kind of challenge that we're looking for. I'm also, just a side note, I don't know if I've made this clear, I'm not mad at having like the hard or ultra hard mode. I'm glad that those are being brought into the game because they answer a different issue, which I'm not going to get into. But one of the most fun moments that I catch myself having in Warframe as a player myself is the oh shit moments. The I'm limbo, haha, you can't touch me, and then a nullifier creeps up on me from behind. I don't like that, but it gives me that oh shit moment, I gotta do something. And I think that maybe there's some way to introduce more of those, kind of like what you said, that they might start attacking towers or whatever, and it'll provoke you to actually become more active and acknowledge your environment a little bit more, rather than, of course, we don't want every enemy in the game to read your mind. I can imagine that's impossible and would probably fry everybody's PCs, right? But
yeah, at the same time, it becomes sort of like an arms race versus the cheese, as soon as now they're doing the attacking the towers, and then you can switch modes because now they're not attacking you, so now you switch to Equinox 4 destroys everything or what have you, any ability that taunts so that they don't get close to the things, sort of like Octavia's. Octavia obviously is the queen of infinite levels. So, for example, when we released Disruption, we did that event. And that one is scaled really quickly, right? The enemies got to level 9,999 fairly quickly compared to other game modes. Immediately, there were a lot of strategies, jump off a cliff with Loki and then teleport them out of the map. Obviously, we fixed that one. We fixed a few. There's a few that I don't think we fixed. So, for example, I think you can do Mag, Bubble, and Overruns 1. Overruns 1 does percentage damage. So, Overrun 1's the percentage damage. So those projectiles sort of swim in there and you annihilate everything. Because that's percentage damage of the guy you initially hit. So if you hit one of the main guys, which have like a ton of health, it devastates any other AI. I do remember when we released that one, it felt very much like an arms race of start nerfing things. And it honestly, to us, it's not fun to be nerfing all the things. Like, believe me, it's not something we look forward to when we
Nah.
when we try and sort it. It's always an issue with in general with events because there's the time pressure. So and there's the time
Right.
pressure. There's the leaderboards. There's the things that really make people push that meta to the very edge.
I totally get that, how that can be a very unfortunate situation for everyone involved. For one, you guys, because it's like, oh, damn, they found something that's just too much, which I can admit to. I mean, Switch teleporting is fun and great, but it kind of trivializes the whole thing, you know? So I get that shouldn't be allowed, essentially, right? And then on the other side, you've got the players who are like, oh, this is cool. And then a couple days later, it's taken away from them. I get it. And not everyone is going to be as reasonable as this bunch here is, right? But what I wonder is, couldn't these kinds of things be more easily foreseen with using test clusters a little bit more or whatnot?
Yes.
You guys release sanctions, let's say, and they're like supposed to be, and I'm just making something up. I don't know if this was actually said, but they're supposed to be like a more endgamey kind of enemy. They're so tough and whatever. And I'm like, tough enemies? Let me grab my mag and Dracoon right quick and see how tough they are. And sure as shit, she just annihilates them, right? Would a test cluster help with that, you know? Is that even a thing that you guys want to do more often in the future as well, which I'm assuming you probably do because the last one was a massive success, I'd say. But, you know.
So, for example, that example of your mag with Dracoon, the problem there becomes, do we balance around mag with the Dracoon? We shouldn't. Because if we do that, then you have to use now the mag and Dracoon. Right? So that's why it kind of, sometimes you just got to say, well, like, what do we do in this case? Do we basically leave it at a point where you can kill it with most weapons, but with some weapons you can just incinerate it in an instant? Or do we make it so you have to use this combo and that's the only way you're gonna get past? Well, to us the answer so far, and obviously we've kind of lived with that, is no, we aim for that sort of like middle of the road. And then if you have those elite strats that melt things, then they melt things.
Right.
Are we like super happy when we see that rank 5 Cuba Leech gets one-shotted? No. I mean, ideally he'd feel more badass and a hard fight. But the reality of the meta is that if we tune it to those very top of the top things, then most players that are not really engaging in the over min maxing will find it extremely frustrating.
Yeah, I'm sure you guys have like a statistic somewhere that determines, because most meta players, I'm just gonna take a wild guess here and assume that most of your millions of players don't even follow like the metas that Reddit or content creators make. I'm sure that there's like casual people who hop onto the game, never engage with the forums or the Reddit or YouTube videos or anything like that, know nothing about the meta. I'm willing to bet that most people who play the game are those kind of people, the really, really casual player base. And if you design something where it's like on a test cluster, someone was like, I was able to like one-shot this guy with my Lenka Riven fully maxed out with a chroma headshot. It's like, oh, okay, let's go ahead and boost the absolute shit out of this enemy. That'll fix that. And then the millions of people who don't really engage with like the community all that much and just play it like, haha, they're gonna go in there and be like, what the hell is wrong with this enemy? Why are they freaking like this? The thing that I want to bring about the test cluster as well is DE said themselves that one of the ideologies they have when they release content is they will release it in such a state that they can buff it instead of nerf it later. So they'll look at a value and say, I think that might be a little bit too high or a little bit too low. They'll bring it down or up, and then when it releases, they'll buff it. So it kind of eliminates the idea that things are getting nerfed. Something that the test cluster could help with is that it could help narrow that a little bit. Like if DE's internal team thinks, this number is a little bit too high, at least they have a test cluster that can tell them it is a little bit too high, but set it here. and then when it goes out to public, they it's a little bit in a better it's in a better place at the outgo. It makes a better first impression.
In general, it's easier for us to buff things than it is to nerf things for obvious reasons. So generally, when we kind of don't know, we lean more towards like, well, let's go with something that is a good base, and then we can sort of buff it later if necessary. But at the same time, it's it is very dependent. When we do internal testing, a lot of times it's very experienced players, and sometimes you can definitely sort of overtune things without really realizing, and then it ends up being frustrating for the overall majority.
Yeah, that's
an example where personally I messed that up was with the wolf. So when I was tweaking the health and resistance of the wolf, I was testing with like a few weapons, and I was doing like 5 mods out of 8. That was my take. Is like, okay, don't do full mod builds, just 5 mods out of 8, and then just with that try and get it to a time to kill of 30 seconds. That was sort of my objective at the different levels. I got it there, and I was like, sure, super easy, 30 seconds solo. This is gonna be a breeze for everyone. Came out, and everyone was like, nope, this is this is unkillable. This is an impossible challenge that will never happen.
Do you remember on stream when someone summoned the wolf in the middle of like a fight that Rev and Megan were doing, and it took them like 20 or 30 minutes to kill him or something?
Yeah, and that's kind of the main problem, right? And this is something that also came out when we were initially thinking about the leeches, which was you're not like sure with the right equipment you can solo the original wolf in 30 seconds, but the problem is, since you don't know when he's going to come up, you generally don't have the right equipment when he comes up, right? So and then obviously nerf hammer after nerf hammer ensued until the wolf was tamed into a puppy. That is essentially overtuning based on sort of a narrower test case.
Yeah. Hopefully a test cluster with more like input from people who like maybe play the game different than the in-house staff does. Hopefully that test cluster can help more quickly narrow down that sweet spot. And that's kind of why I was super excited when I heard that it was becoming a thing.
Yeah,
that is the hope for sure.
Yeah.
The hope is that it will help us with those things. It's unsure exactly, like I don't know exactly when for which cases we're going to use it.
Yeah.
It is obvious that it would have been amazing during Scarlet Spear.
Definitely. Yeah.
In retrospect, obviously that would have been pretty fucking sweet. But alas, it wasn't. But there are things like, for example, right now with Protea, if I look at public sentiment and also our internal testers, there's like half and half. Some are saying that her 4 is overpowered as fuck, and half are saying that it's a meme. And I don't know, I think it's good, but like there's so many, the rift is so big, it's kind of hard to tell. So obviously, it would be ideal to have more testing on that before it comes out, so that I don't have to like immediately nerf it once it comes out.
The whole test cluster situation really did a lot of good on all fronts. At least that's what I could tell from comment sections and forum posts and this and that. People were really excited that their favorite content creators are being included in these things, because it's like power to the people and all that stuff, right? Yeah. We were excited because we were being included, and we're like, okay, we got so many opinions. We can now put our money where our mouths are and all that stuff and all that. And you guys got some, I hope, very, very valuable feedback versus, the usual feedback that you'll find on forums like, man, you suck to eat bad. Like, that ain't helping nobody. Shut up,
I'm kind of curious. What are you looking to use the public test cluster for? Like from here on out, is it going to be for like new frames? Is it going to be just for events? Is it going to be for weapons? Like, what's the mindset with the public test cluster moving forward, or is it just going to be anything that requires like a lot of people.
So I cannot really tell you like exactly because I don't actually know.
Oh, right.
the like for us it was great, but it was also very taxing on some of the people that had to work behind the scenes and making it happen.
Marcus.
So and also the technical side was really it was really taxing in terms of like just actually getting it working. So every time we do it, we're gonna sort of put a lot of weight on the shoulder of a few people in the office. So we also have to be sort of measured with that.
Yeah, of course.
I think for me, like the thought would be anything that we would need to test to scale, and anything that is a large change where we would easily miss a lot of things. So, for example, if we went back a little bit to when we did the damage changes, it would have been cool to actually do the test server first, because a lot of the things that came out broken of, this weapon still do self-damage even though it's not supposed to, or you missed changing the status chance on this one shotgun, or things like that that definitely kind of slipped by us. A lot of those would have been shaken out on the test cluster, which happened this time with the Railjack changes. A lot of the things that we sort of missed along the way that you guys found on the test cluster before it went live, so that was great. So I think it's more for those. I don't know about, like, for example, I'm very hesitant of saying like, oh, this next update with the Deadlock Protocol, which has a quest, for example, do we really want to put that in the test cluster? That seems almost like a little icky.
A little bit excessive.
Yeah. So that will get spoiled for a lot of people.
Yeah,
you don't want to let the spoilers out for sure.
Yeah. So
I get that. Yeah.
So then what do? You do a test cluster but limited so that there's no quest. You do the tile set, but then the tile set will also reveal a few things. And it is definitely a little more sticky. I have no idea if we're going to do it or not. I literally have no idea, but I can see how in some situations it's not it doesn't work as well as it does on things like the Railjack one or the one for Scarlet Spear.
Back when Plains of Eidolon first dropped, I'm going to assume that at the time it wasn't quite ready to be pushed out anyways. But I feel that if way back then there was a test server for that, it would really help have pushed that first impression better out the door. For something like a frame, I don't think it's really necessary. Like if you're
it's a little excessive, I'd say, for that.
That's pretty minor for a test cluster.
Yeah, but if you're dropping, for example,
don't down talk my frames, okay? Calm down. It's pretty minor.
Hey, I'm just saying, compared to like a Scarlet Spear event, look, Protea looks great, man.
And so like if you're gonna be like releasing something, and this might also be a little bit icky, but at least it has those story elements that can be spoiled. If you're releasing like a new open world, you might want to think about putting that on the test cluster first, just to make sure that it can handle whatever it is you're trying to do and get that first impression nailed. Because you guys made or spent a lot of money marketing Plains of Eidolon and or Valis, and that's drawing a lot of players in. But in my opinion, making a good first impression is probably like one of the most important things you can do. And the test server is amazing for that.
As we all know, the Lotus is lovingly referred to as Space Mom, or once upon a time was. You may not be aware, but there are parts in the internet where you are referred to as Space Poppy, and we are all down for that. Now,
what?
What?
It's what it is.
Heard of this?
Listen, I totally don't hang out in weird places on the internet. Leave me alone. Now listen.
Jesus, like, look, it's just me, okay? He's my poppy. I didn't want it to be weird, but whatever.
Make it weird. That actually reminds me of a meme that my server made. Anyway, let's not get into it. Right. So, anyways, one of the reasons why you're like idolized and everybody loves you so much is because a lot of people like to point a finger at you when it comes to doing really, really good reworks and whatnot. And a lot of the questions that
I thought you were going to say nullifiers, but okay.
No. Listen. You have a wonderful reputation. Don't mess it up. Let the masses believe what they want to. No, but a lot of people really enjoy your reworks and your takes on that. And I think from what I can tell, and also adding my personal impression as well. It looks like your reworks often look very synergetic. They work very well together. They have a decent amount of variety, which is difficult in Warframe, of course. And they just seem well-rounded and thought out and just good, just fun. So a lot of people are asking, like, when is Pablo going to rework Zephyr? When is Pablo going to rework Nyx and Hydroid and all of these things? Do you have any Warframe at the moment that you're kind of eyeballing or that you would like to rework if you could? And if so, how? What would you do? What would your vision be?
I don't really. I do get that question. I do get that question a lot for, will you rework X or Y? Honestly, like that one, I mean, the whole, I don't know about Space Daddy. I've never heard that, or Space Pappy, but
I have.
whole, it is, honestly, for me, it's like a little bit awkward, not only being called Pappy, but it's also it's also a bit awkward that so obviously when you make a rework, it's not like I'm making the whole thing, right? It's like a team thing. I'm just sort of coordinating the ideas, and there's a whole bunch of people involved, and I'm the face that a lot of people see, so they kind of assume that that's kind of, it's this one guy.
Yeah, it was all you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Exactly.
And at the same time, I'm like super proud of my work. I really enjoy it, and I enjoyed like sharing it, and I like that you guys also kind of get to see a little bit behind of how we work. But I don't know. It's a difficult one. It's because sometimes it also goes into like the other extreme of like, like I literally seen this comment and it just kind of this cringe. Total cringe is like, if it's not a word about Pablo, I don't even want to see it. Like, that's just like, that is just very, it kind of really goes counter to sort of what we're trying to do. It is definitely it is a team effort. Like all those reworks really wouldn't work without the new animations, the new sounds, the new effects. Like a lot of that is sort of, bringing something like Wukong that was made, 4 or 5 years ago, bringing it up to more closer standards to what we do today. A lot of the rework right there is literally just modernizing a lot of the assets, right? Like just with that is kind of a lot of what gives it the shine. So anyway, that's just my little rant of I don't like, I do feel a little awkward about that. Now, in particular, in terms of like what rework, I don't have one at the moment that I'm working on. All of the reworks I've done so far have been essentially at some point. I don't want to say I got inspired because that just sounds kind of pretentious, but that literally I was like, I was playing some frame and I was like, this thing doesn't work. Okay, what could work? And that's kind of how I go about it. Obviously, some of them are touchy. Like honestly, I still get complaints about nerfing effigy. Defy. Sorry. I was nerfing Defy. I still get complaints about that, right? So
that's weird.
So
I would just like to point out that Shai's throwing shade at the Saren rework in the chat.
which one of them, though?
She said she loved all 40 of the Saren reworks. So
so that's a good example of like I don't know. People sometimes focus on like sometimes either people focus on the thing they didn't like or on the thing they did like, right? So I guess I got lucky on the choosing that people mostly remember me for Wukong and not for nullifiers and for the 40 Siren reworks. But
it's really weird that you're getting comments about Defy because I legitimately thought that before the rework, Wukong was the worst frame in the game because all he really could do was take a hit and pretty much nothing else. It's like, okay, cool. You know who else can do that? About half of the other frames, they just have to put a tiny bit more effort into it. I don't know. Wukong's is probably the best rework I had seen up until then.
Like,
so that's weird.
I like the Ninja rework, but like I liked Ninja before. But the Wukong rework, it was like before I was like, oh my god, this is the most boring experience I've ever had. Please kill me. And then after the rework, it was like, whoa. This is like, I want to play Wukong. He's really fun. His powers all feel real good. And he's got free revives as his passive, but
I guess I'll just sit in the corner then. I can't stand Wukong. I can't. I no.
The Wukong right
I
now
love
you
him.
can't stand the
Right
rework
now?
Wukong.
I don't like. No, I like the former Wukong a little bit better, but that's just me.
Oh, well, you know, you can be wrong. It's okay.
I'm aware. To this day, I've actually not died with Wukong, like permanently died, like gone to the downstate or like fallen over. The only time I've died is because I needed to show off the passive in a video, so I purposely just let myself die. To this day, I've not actually died with him, even after the Divine Nerf and whatever. Actually, are you guys okay with giving a brief like discussion on the new frame that's coming out, Protea?
Yeah, sure.
Is it you? Is it you that's leading that frames design, or is it someone else? When I say lead, I mean like the one who. Okay, yeah. That's all I really want to know. I was wondering who was working on it. I think Scott worked on Grendel.
Yep.
Yeah, I was curious who was working on the new frame. It's funny because their design was my original mental picture of what Vauban was going to be. Like turret man with like dispensers and stuff. And I'm actually glad that design is finally in the game now.
Now, to repeat myself 10 times, it's not a turret.
Yeah.
It's not a turret.
Well, it looks like a turret. I know it's not like I know it's not like a 30-second, 40-second put down, but it looks like a turret, right? It spawns like a shooter and it shoots 4 times and then it disappears.
Yeah,
it looks like a turret, so I call it that.
I've seen people with the expectation that's like the engineer sort of
No.
engineer standard, like it's you put the turret and you maintain it, Torbjorn in Warframe sort of thing. It's not that. Just to be clear, it is not that. Maybe one day we'll do that, but not this ain't it, chef. But yeah, I've had a lot of fun. Exactly the one that Shai just posted in chat.
God.
I just don't want people to expect that, and then it is not that.
Yeah, it was a little bit. It's a little bit of an unfortunate visual coincidence because let's face it, it doesn't function like a TF2 engineer turret, and it doesn't work like Torbjorn. But the only way I can think to describe it is as a turret. You know what I'm saying? Because it looks like a turret. But yeah, that's not what I was getting at. I was getting at the idea of having a deployable gun that shoots for you for a little bit and having a thing that dispenses things like that. That's originally what I thought. Yeah, that's what I thought Vauban was going to be. And she looks really freaking interesting. I think she's going to be one of my favorite frames, actually.
Yeah, she's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm hoping to get to her.
Hopefully you'll enjoy her when she comes out. Soon TM.
TMT.
I remember, maybe it was Reb during an interview or maybe Steve during a dev stream, not sure. But it was mentioned that way back in the day when Warframe was still like in its infancy and whatnot, and there were like 8 frames or whatever pitched as an idea, and whoever was like in charge of do we go forward or not said like, well, you've got 8 characters, like how are you going to come up with more? And you were kind of like roll up your sleeves like, and buy beer, right? Are you guys still are like the Warframe ideas like still flowing and you still got like plenty ideas to go, or is it starting to get difficult to maintain some sort of a variety?
Yeah, no, not in Warframe, like in ideas in general. Like it always feels like there's 10 times more ideas than there is time to make them, you know?
Yeah.
Like that's in general how I feel. Like I literally have like maybe like 6 designs that I've written out and kind of outlined and very well detailed of what I would like to do, and some of them, I might never get to them. Maybe it'll be in 50 years. I don't know.
What's something that just struck me? They're flexing on us with the fact that they have more ideas because they're making a frame that is literally 4 frames that were mashed together into one. 4 concepts. They're flexing on us with how many ideas they have. But
That's true.
Go on.
Yeah. So, Jared, I don't really feel like we're anywhere near close to, oh shit, what can we do now? Like we're definitely way more in the, everyone has so many ideas. Which one do we do in what order, right? We're more there still, 8 years in. We're so, and that's a lot of like the nature of sort of Warframe. It's a game where, we could have just stayed as a game that does a new weapon every other week and some skins and a Warframe every 2 months, like we used to do back in the day. And we probably would be down to like 3,000 concurrent players and trying to survive, right? But at some point, crazy people decided, hey, what if we add cinematic quests to this thing?
Yeah.
Like, I remember when that was happening. I mean, obviously now it seems like foundational to Warframe that, of course, there's a cinematic quest, right? But back in the second reign, we were all like, holy shit, is this gonna work? Did we just spend like a ton of time working on this, and who knows if it's gonna go well, right?
Yeah.
So it is that sort of spirit of always trying new things, and it's that same spirit. The spirit of trying new things is what gives you the second dream, but it's also what gives you Lunaro. So you gotta take it with both cheeks. You like some, you won't like others. But it is in that same spirit of we're always kind of trying to change things up.
Something that I've always admired, actually, too, is of you guys as developers, because many times when I started playing and I was just a wee tenno, you guys very often like threw me off with your decisions on how you go for the next bigger thing or the next project or whatever. And I was like, damn, these guys are really living up to their name, Digital Extremes. They're not scared of anything. Like a cinematic quest, and then, oh my God, they're releasing a frame that is 2 frames in one and has 7 ability. What? There's a new frame, a dragon thing that does like elemental stuff, and then there's an open world, and now we're flying around in space and whatnot. I'm like, what's happening? What the hell?
I don't think you mentioned Lunaro in there, though.
No.
Lunaro is fun.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I'll let you go. I was just wanted to make a joke. For me, I can't wait for the fabled Frame Fighter rebalance update.
Oh God. Oh Lord. Oh Lord.
For us as developers, it is important that generally when you get into the games industry, at some point it used to be, you work in a project 2-3 years, you put it in a box, you send it out, you never hear from it again, you start on the next one, and that's kind of how it used to be, back in my day, that was kind of how it used to work. So now working on the same project for 7-8 years, you also have to not only keep it interesting for players, you have to keep it interesting for the developers.
Right.
And it kind of has to start, it kind of has to stay sort of fresh for you. Because otherwise you won't, I definitely think if it was like a job of like, okay, well, I guess we gotta do another frame, that would totally not work. So it has to be sort of like driven by, like, I really want to, oh my God, I would love to, like we were talking about earlier about doing a roguelite, I would love to do that, So if I can find the opportunity and the time to do it, it'd be awesome. So
I think that those content creators especially can relate to that quite a bit. Because
definitely.
In some way, we well, not in some way, we literally both create something, right? It is a creative process. It doesn't matter if you're making a video or a video game. You're creating something. And if you hate the project you're working on, there's just no way. It'll just burn you out so hard. I interrupted somebody. One of you guys was about to say something.
No, not me. I was just talking about how Lunaro was fun, and that probably should be interrupted.
Wow. I gotta be honest. I gotta be 100% honest. I actually didn't have enough time to even try Lunaro because I was working on various projects and whatnot. And then by the time that I was like, okay, let's give this a shot, I think it took like 3 to 4 minutes. 3 to 4 minutes to get a group together via public server. And then I think what happened is I can't remember if it was a glitch or what, but there was like a host migration in the middle of the match and they kicked us all out. And I was like, well, I don't want to do that again. And so I never even got to experience Lunaro, to be completely fair. I'll meme about it like, haha, Lunaro. I never got to experience more or less.
Well, hopefully by Lunaro 2.0, you'll be ready to give it a go.
Oh! Craziest thing is when I played Lunaro like last year, and there's still like a really hardcore niche of people that live and die by Lunaro.
Really?
They do like little private tournaments and everything.
That's awesome.
I had the misfortune of running into one of them in a public match and getting dunked on so hard. Like,
yeah, I know. Honestly, like that's also kind of like the good and the bad. Like it's part of the problem in Conclave, for example. If
Yeah.
you go in as a new player, you're gonna find one because there's quite a few sessions of Conclave still to this day, and I say sessions versus players because it's a lot of the same players playing over and over. So there are some players that love it so much that they do play it quite a bit. If you get into a match with one of them, you get absolutely destroyed. So it is one of those things that that it kind of balances against itself.
I think
Obviously,
one of the
for us, like the dream would be to have a more solid, conclave working, but that's not the reality of, and it's also not where we wanted to invest time in, right? For obvious reasons.
Yeah,
so.
of course. Of course.
If it makes you feel any better, people come into the game mainly for the PvE anyways. So if that's not higher on your priority, I don't think anyone's gonna fault you for that.
No.
I think something on my video table is I have never really touched Conclave either. Not a whole lot. I think the last time I touched Conclave was it was back during the Christmas event in which you had a candy cane and snowballs, and you went to PvP and you fought with those. And I think that was the last Conclave event. That, or it was the one-shot Opticore Conclave event, if you remember that.
Yeah, people like those, and I think that one of the reasons is that they, things like that kind of wipe the progression. Being the game we are, we always like to have some progression, so we obviously have the Conclave mods, which give you a little bit of an advantage, not a huge one, but they do give you an advantage. So having that, I know whenever we talk about anything Conclave related, Joe, which led a lot of that, says like it was at its funnest when it was at the beginning when there were just like 8 frames and a few weapons. That's when it worked at its best, because then people could actually, there was way less to handle. The differences on power weren't as crazy.
Yeah,
reasonable.
As more and more things kind of went in, it just became, people could really get extremely good at it and kind of wreck anyone.
And if you guys ever do go back to PvP, or like invest more time into it, one thing that that is very important to keep in your mindset is that that's kind of the thing with any PvP game, that if you're a new player, you are going to get in there and get smashed and hammered and just absolutely destroyed. There's some systems where you can let's match players to play time for like how long they've been playing and how many wins and losses they have. But that's not a 100% fix. Like with fighting games, for example, you're going to run across someone who maybe Smurf accounts for the hell of it and things like that.
Yeah.
It's a mindset that the players have to deal with, less than the developers. So if you are going to get back into it, maybe avoid thinking of, how do we make it so that new players getting into it don't get frustrated? That's kind of on them to get into the mindset of. If you go into a PvE game and you're new,
the only ones that I play, what I notice and how I've experienced balance is I'll go in there as a new player and I'll get wrecked. Not because I don't have specific mods, but because I just suck, right? And then after playing for a year, then I start getting those headshots and just killing everything and holding my own, which in the Conclave is kind of nullified because you jump in as a completely new player. You don't have anything for your gear, and others that might be in there every day for 4 years or whatever, they have everything. They'll just annihilate. There's no chance right off the bat, But again, just general scheme of Conclave specifically in Warframe, nobody starts playing Warframe because PvP is so great. People start playing Warframe for other reasons, and Conclave is just there. And that's good that it's there. And eventually someday when, other stuff is in order and you want to shift focus toward the Conclave or PvP aspect, sure, by all means, go ahead. But right now, I guess there are bigger fish to fry, if you will. Pablo, is there any questions? Because we're just holding you with questions and stuff. But is there anything that you'd want to ask to content creators in general or anyone specific here? I'm just curious. There's something on your mind.
Why are you guys such dicks?
That would be a valid question.
Not really, not off the top of my head. I mean, obviously.
Wow, we're uninteresting. Confirmed. No, kidding.
It is one of those things that obviously there's a symbiotic relationship between game developers and content creators
Mm-hmm.
that I don't quite understand if I'm being honest.
Okay. Do tell.
But it just goes past. No. I didn't do that. Shai. I did not. Um, it is interesting because, for example, I like playing Heroes of the Storm, and there's a streamer I used to watch there that he did use like a lot of streams of Heroes of the Storm, and he was very successful. Like he had like 1,200 viewers every stream or something like that. And I even saw him some streams with literally $10,000 donated in a single stream. I saw that a few times.
Wow.
But after a few months of playing Heroes of the Storm, he started to get really sick of it. Like you could see that he was like not enjoying it anymore. And I think that kind of goes for like almost everything you do. If you do the same thing, 8 hours a day, every day, like I'm sure, if you got blowjobs every day for 8 hours, after a
Well,
while
hold
you'd be
on
like,
now.
you know what?
I mean,
You know what? I'm done with this. Can we just,
there's so many other variables to that scenario than just. I mean, anyway, go ahead.
Okay.
Go on.
I think eventually you'd grow tired of of anything. Is what I'm saying. And then you could see with him, I could see like sort of the tension with him of saying like, well, obviously I have this very successful stream here. Do I jump to another game because I'm so tired of this? Eventually, he did jump to League of Legends. He did lose like 2/3 of his audience, but that I've watched a few streams with him. He looks pretty happy. So I do sometimes see with you guys when I see some of the videos and stuff where you essentially seem like, well, yeah, I'm playing this so much that it kind of it loses part of what is just a fun game, and it is a job, which it literally is a job. So
when they say like you consume content, that's what it is. You're like eating meat off of a bone, and at some point, it's funny because I have a lot of friends who are veterans of the game, and they're like, there's nothing to do anymore. They're not doing anything with the game anymore. And then I'll be like, you probably have a wrong mindset, mate, because I'll look at their profile and they'll have 4,000, 5,000 hours into the game. And it's like, okay, it's not that they're not doing anything anymore. It's just you're trying to pull the last bit of meat off the bone and you don't want to move on. For me, I still love the hell out of the game. It's funny because every now and then, it's once in a blue moon, I'll come across a game that will keep me hooked for like 10 plus years. And for me, one of those games was TF2. And then after TF2, it was Warframe. And I'm still not done with it. I still enjoy just playing it, a new update or not. I'm more burnt out on freaking video creation than Warframe, but that's me. But yeah, that's the thing that I want to stress to a lot of people is when you're upset that the game is boring, I think that has less to do with there being nothing to do and more with it being the fact that you've already experienced most of what you're going to experience. And it's just, that will happen with any game, no matter how good, no matter how amazing it is. It's misplaced judgment, I think. And this is coming from someone who likes to, he's bash on DE every now and then. I have no qualms in admitting that. If something is done wrong, I'll make it vocal. But even I will admit that if you're going after a developer for being like, you guys aren't updating the game enough, or the game is dead, sometimes you have to look at how long you've been playing that game and realize that it's not dead. You've just eaten it to the bone.
It is obviously in PvE, like a PvE game, it's very hard to make it have sort of infinite content, right? Like that's just not a thing that that can happen. Like for example, for me as a player, I play maybe like 6-8 hours a week, something like that. And for me, I've always have a ton of things I want to do. Like I log on and be like, I really want to do Cuba, but I can't do it this week. I'll do another thing. Like I always feel like there's a ton of things I would like to do, and I just kind of never I'm able to get around to them because in 6 to 8 hours a week, you just cannot really consume all the things. But then I obviously see some people that play literally 40 hours a week, which is like it's a day job. So we cannot keep up with that for sure. But at the same time, it's like I do think like, oh, it is cool that some people have that level of passion for it.
Mhm.
Maybe playing 40 hours a week is not the healthiest, but I would recommend spicing it up with a few other games in between.
Yeah.
Can I just add something for
yeah,
like
go ahead.
at you as a developer specifically for and I'll admit this just straight up because that's just how it is. You guys are not responsible for meeting all of our demands. There's no way in hell you can twist and turn it to make that sound like it is your responsibility. So for players who used to or still do play Warframe and only Warframe for 40 hours a week or 60 hours a week, like I did at one point, I'm also one of those goobers that has, I don't know, 5,000 something hours or whatever in the game. I also feel like there's nothing more to do as in acquire or whatever, but I still find my joy in playing like on streams or whatever, play with clanmates or with friends or whatever, or just random viewers or whatnot. I like to use the stream for doing that. And that's joy for me. I like endless missions. I'm a survivalist dude. I like doing that, right? So just because I'm over here and I'm like, there's nothing I can use my weapons on, that doesn't mean that you guys need to like up your production just to appease players that might be in the same boat. That's not what anybody wants either. And specifically with what you mentioned about people looking miserable while playing Warframe, that's also not your fault because there's this weird phenomena when it comes to Warframe players, Warframe content creators. When you make a video that is titled Warframe something something something, 100,000 views, especially if it's something flashy like red crits or whoever, things that nobody should really care about, right? But 100,000 views. The moment you touch anything that is not Warframe, you lose 90% of your viewership. And for someone like, for example, me, there are others, I do the whole streaming and YouTube thing. I'm a full-time content creator. I do this for a living. So when I'm streaming Warframe and I have, let's say, an average of 100 viewers or 200 or 50 or whatever, and the subs are coming in and whatnot, that puts food on my table, literally, The moment I put on Resident Evil and I got 20 viewers or something, right?
Yep.
I'm literally worried at the end of the month if I can actually, put food on the table. And it doesn't matter if you're doing it full time or not. That doesn't matter. But the fact is, there are people that are so crazy about Warframe that don't give a shit about the creator themselves, right? And that's not your fault at all. That has nothing to do with your game. It's not the game that's actually burning people out. It's the streamers who are kind of, in a way, burning themselves out because they try to meet their viewership's demand, who all want Warframe. You know what I mean? So you shouldn't feel like you should take responsibility for that or like it's your fault or whatever. That's unrelated.
The thing is that when people are like looking at your stuff and then you do something else, it's like, I don't want to watch this. I think it's because Warframe is not something that's very easy to replace because I don't say this to be cheesy. It's 100% true. Warframe is a one-of-a-kind game. There's not a whole lot of it on the market. So
it is its own thing for sure.
I imagine that if you were playing Dota, for example, and you were really well known for Dota, and again, this is speaking as an outsider. If you're really well known for Dota, and then you jump to League, I imagine you would have more of a player base pull than you would if you went from something like Warframe to Monster Hunter World, for example, because they're completely different games.
Yeah, I think you guys can also give yourselves like a pat on the back. It's not just that you're developing something that is cool, but also just you guys as people. Because it is a little bit different. I don't know if there's any other kind of community developer relationship out there with any other game that is as well. I'm just going to use nice for lack of a better word, as nice as ours. If that makes any sense. I really don't know. It seems like you guys are definitely you take the cake in that department. And I think that plays in a lot with why people are like serious, die-hard Warframe fans. They'll follow you to the grave. They don't care about anything or anybody else, which is, a double-edged sword, but nonetheless, just it's nice,
Yeah, I mean, for me, like one of the things that I'm pretty bummed about this year is, the TennoCon for us is just such a special day. Like, literally the energy in that room is just crazy. As a developer. Like, it is just kind of crazy to see it, like, because it's not the same like when you're looking, concurrent players stats or something like that. There's a whole bunch of people that love it.
Yeah.
But it's not the same when you actually see, thousands of people that travel to London, Ontario, of all places, to sort of celebrate the game together. It is very crazy, and it is a very special day for us. So, obviously we're going to try to make the best out of it in the digital version, but I am sad that we won't have that event this year the same way that we had it before.
If it makes you feel any better, when I was first getting into making videos and whatnot, when I hit 1,000 subscribers, I made a milestone video, and one thing that I pointed out in that video was that when you're looking at a statistic on a page, like a number, it's like, oh, okay, 1,000, and then you compare it to like everyone else on the platform or whatever it is, like how many players you have or how many people are watching you or whatever. It's like, oh, that's like a drop in the bucket. But in that video, I think I specifically said to people who are also wanting to get off the ground at the time was 1,000 people can't even fit in one room or even a house. So if you have like 1,000 people watching you, that sounds like a low number by like statistic like variables, but you always have to keep in your freaking mind, even if they're not physically there, you essentially have like 1,000 people standing freaking behind your chair looking at your screen. That's basically what's happening right now. It's going to be a digital this year, but that's still thousands upon thousands of people, and each person is a huge impact watching the thing. So
for sure. I mean, obviously, I'm still thrilled that we're gonna do the event in digital, but it is a special day for us. Like it is very much a celebration every year when we do it, and it is kind of like it is very re-energizing in terms of like, because a lot of times it is not too hard to get cynical about like, oh, people are angry about this or that or whatever, but you gotta remind yourself just not only how lucky you are that you again that you made this game that in my particular case it's a game that I don't only enjoy making, I enjoy playing. So that alone is a big win. Other games I made before have been games that I was just enjoying making them, but not actually playing them. So that is pretty huge in terms of like the sort of the privilege that you have, and on top of that, just seeing the level of passion that a lot of people have for it is super cool.
Does anybody have any last words? Damn, that sounds grim.
So we started off with a marriage, and now we're going to a funeral.
There we go. Full circle.
Full circle. We have done the circle of life.
The circle! Oh, shut up. My neighbors are mad.
I started with the marriage. Remember, we're gathered here today in loving matrimony.
We're gathered here today to celebrate the life.
We have, Pablo apparently has a son in Cephalon Jizo now because he's his face pappy.
I still have heard nothing about that. No, I have heard nothing about
Jizo is the only one that has heard this meme, and we're all just like, whoa, okay, dude.
Put it on record right now. I blame my server.
Listen, what you write fanfic about in your free time is none of my business. So,
okay, let's not make this more awkward.
So it was real fun. It was great having everyone here. I guess we can go around the table and do a final outro thing. I guess we'll start off with you, Jizo. You want to do a little outro shill?
Right. Insert cool outro here. No, it was really nice. I'm really happy that I was invited to one of these things. It was really, really good. I hope that we can do more of these. Not this particular constellation, just more of these involving some sort of a dev, because it's just really nice, to be kind of like have a bit of a, well, not literally one-on-one, but a more personal conversation and nice little exchange. And it's just overall really pleasant, and y'all just keep doing what you're doing and whatnot, and try to be happy and safe. At the end of the day, I think that the only thing that all of us really want is just Warframe to be the best that it can be. Doesn't always work out perfectly, but hey, we're trying. We're all trying.
Yep. And our other content creator superstar friend was Triburos. I think I just said your name differently than I did at the beginning. Whatever. Any parting words, bud?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, fun fact, I actually had no idea that Pablo was going to be here for the podcast. I don't think Shai ever mentioned it to me, so I was like, holy crap, this is the thing. So that was a really pleasant surprise today to be able to speak with him and everything like that. I also want to point out to anyone who's watching this who is a part of my channel, yeah, I'm sorry about the delay in content and everything. I know it's getting longer and longer between videos. This is just a personal comment to my audience, so I'll keep it short. Yeah, sorry about that. I have a new video out coming very soon. It's just between learning Blender and 3D animation and crap like that, modeling and whatnot, and also general burnout with editing itself and not Warframe. It's, I've been rather slow, so I apologize about that. I will have something out soon, but for now, just let this fill the gap, please. And thanks again for Shai for letting me come out here.
And of course, we had the superstar of the episode, Pablo from DE. Anything? Any last words to the people?
It was a pleasure to join you. Hopefully, I illuminated some questions that you guys and players in general might have. Hopefully, I didn't rant too much. I know I'm a bit of a ranter, but that's kind of how it goes. And yeah, thank you for having me. I don't have to say keep on playing Warframe because probably if you're listening to this, you probably play Warframe. And yeah, hopefully we'll get you that protocol soon. TM.
Glad you said that because I was thinking about stopping. Geez, now I'll keep playing Warframe. But Shai, thank you for bringing us all together. It was great. It was fun. I've been DK. Hopefully I'll be DK tomorrow. And that's it.
Thanks. Adios.
Bye.
Bye. Yeah, subscribe and shit.
I can't hear anyone.
Listen, it's spelled Jizo, not Jizzo. Hence, Jizo, not Jizo. Oh my God, you illiterate dickhole.
All right, be honest with me. How often does that happen?
All the time.
Something that I learned over time on being on the internet is that, jizz is a music style in Star Wars.
Wait a minute, jizz was the genre of music? Damn, that's the first time I've heard of this.
Oh, yeah, it is. I thought it was fucking hilarious.
They are jizz whalers, by the way.
I had to have the name manually changed and explain how Jizo has nothing to do with certain bodily fluids.
Pablo's just sitting over there like, what have I gotten myself into?
I have no idea.
What the fuck happened?
Why am I here? Why did I
agree
agree to this? Now we can stop pretending to be nice. Okay, so now comes the real talk. Now we actually start. No.
Yeah, that Shai character, fuck her, right? God, unbelievable.
Oh my God, have you seen
balls
her
on that
channel? Like,
Literally just like
she's like, I hate Warframe.